All right, let's just jump right into it. Welcome to this explainer where we are going to see exactly how Act 1 of William Shakespeare's Julius Caesar operates as an absolute masterclass in building a high-stakes cinematic political thriller. We're going to break down how this first act perfectly sets the stage for literally one of the most famous assassinations in human history. So, whether you know the play by heart or you're exploring it for the very first time, you are going to see how brilliantly this story constructs a complete pressure cooker of jealousy, political manipulation, and some serious supernatural dread.
So, picture this. What actually happens when a celebrated war hero becomes just a little too powerful for his own good? We are dropping right into the chaotic, noisy streets of ancient Rome to explore the absolute danger of unchecked ambition. Now, what you have to keep in mind here is that Rome had been a republic for nearly 500 years. They were fundamentally deeply terrified of kings, having violently overthrown their last one centuries ago. But now, now one man has risen so high and amassed so much popular support that the very foundation of their government is totally threatened.
Section 1. A divided republic. You know, our story doesn't kick off in some quiet, stuffy hall of power. No, it starts right in the middle of a massive, raucous street party, the Feast of Lupercal. The Roman masses have basically shut down the entire city, skipping work to wildly celebrate Julius Caesar's latest military victory. But here is the catch, and it's a big one. He didn't just defeat a foreign enemy, he defeated the sons of his former ally and rival, the great Roman general Pompey.
The whole situation brilliantly illustrates the core conflict of the entire narrative. On one hand, you have the everyday citizens, the commoners, who are absolutely loving their new hero. They are fickle for sure, but they are ready to throw a massive parade. But then, contrasted sharply against them are the government officials. Specifically, we meet the tribunes Flavius and Morellus, and they are terrified. They're looking at these crowds cheering for a man who just shed Roman blood, and they don't see a victory parade at all. They see the very beginning of a dictatorship.
And these tribunes don't just sit around worrying, they immediately take action. Flavius uses this incredible metaphor drawn from falconry. He basically says that if they strip Caesar's statues of their celebratory decorations, they can curb his momentum. They literally want to pluck his feathers to suppress this godlike popularity before he flies way too high and subjects everyone to slavery. They actually go running through the streets, driving the commoners back to work. It's a desperate, frantic move just to maintain the status quo.
Moving right along to Section 2, the Feast and the Warning. Because now, the man of the hour finally steps into the light.
Enter Julius Caesar. He walks in as the undisputed heavyweight ruler of the world. He's arrogant, he's commanding, and he completely expects everyone to hang on his every single word. He's surrounded by his loyalists, including his top guy, Mark Antony. In fact, right in front of everyone, Caesar commands Antony to touch his wife Calpurnia during the ceremonial foot race, invoking this old superstition to cure her infertility. It is such a fascinating contrast, right? A man at the absolute pinnacle of worldly power, yet still entirely beholden to ancient superstitions. He is completely unaware of the massive target on his back.
Then, suddenly, cutting right through the noise of the partying crowd, comes this chilling, totally supernatural warning from a blind fortune teller, a soothsayer. The guy simply says, "Beware the Ides of March," meaning the 15th of March. And how does Caesar react to this creepy prophecy? He just looks at the man, dismisses him entirely as a dreamer, and literally just walks away. It is pure fatal hubris. He's so insulated by his own power that he just brushes off a direct warning of his own impending doom.
Section 3. The Art of Manipulation. With the target firmly established, the real mastermind of the story starts assembling his team for the ultimate political heist.
We are now left with two wildly different politicians. First up is Cassius. Even Caesar himself admits this guy is bad news, describing him as having a lean and hungry look. Cassius thinks too much. He's dangerous, bitter, and deeply, deeply jealous of Caesar's power. On the flip side, we have Brutus. Brutus is honorable. He's incredibly respected by the Roman people, and he comes from this noble family that famously overthrew kings centuries ago. But Brutus is currently at war with himself. Now, Cassius knows he can't just murder Caesar alone. The people would completely riot. He needs Brutus's pristine golden reputation to make a bloody assassination look like a virtuous act of patriotism.
So Cassius executes an absolutely brilliant psychological manipulation. It's truly a masterclass in exploiting someone's core values. He breaks down Brutus's defenses step by step to recruit him to the dark side. First, he acts like a mirror, flattering Brutus and reminding him of his noble ancestry and his duty to Rome. Second, he relentlessly attacks Caesar's so-called godhood. And finally, he cooks up a devious plan to forge letters from average citizens to finally tip the scales.
Cassius uses some incredibly powerful imagery to persuade him. He compares Caesar to the Colossus, literally a giant statue, while painting the rest of them as just petty men walking under his huge legs, waiting to find dishonorable graves. Cassius is essentially looking Brutus in the eye and asking, why should this one ordinary, physically weak mortal be valued so much higher than you? What exactly makes his name sound any better than yours?
And as they're having this intense conversation, the tension is just skyrocketing off-screen. Brutus keeps hearing the distant crowd shouting, which fuels his absolute worst fear, that the people are actually trying to crown Caesar as their king. Later, the blunt-speaking Casca joins them and gives them the crazy rundown of what just happened. Mark Antony offered Caesar a kingly crown 3 separate times. Each time, Caesar refused it, totally playing the crowd, and the masses just went wild with joy. The whole theatrical display was actually so intense that Caesar fainted. He foamed at the mouth from what Brutus calls the falling sickness. But the scary part, even with physical frailties like passing out, his political momentum is utterly unstoppable.
Which brings us to Section 4, Omens in the Storm. Things are about to get really, really weird.
The simmering political tension of Rome basically boils over into a literal, terrifying thunderstorm that engulfs the entire city, and the imagery here is staggering. Casca meets Cicero in the streets, and Casca is losing his mind with fear. He recounts these absolute unnatural horrors he's just witnessed in the storm. He saw a slave holding up a hand blazing with fire, but the flesh wasn't burning at all. He saw a fierce lion casually prowling right near the Capitol building. He mentions ghostly women, swearing they saw men walking the streets completely engulfed in flames. And an owl, a nighttime creature, just hanging out hooting in the marketplace in the middle of the day. These horrifying omens build incredible atmospheric tension. It's like Shakespeare is flashing giant warning signs at us, signaling that the natural order of the world is being violently torn apart.
Section 5. Forging the Conspiracy. The trap is officially set.
The real villains of our story don't hide from this terrifying night. They actually use it. While Casca is terrified of the storm, viewing it as a horrible omen, Cassius literally embraces it. He's walking through the streets completely unafraid. He masterfully spins this nightmare to his own advantage, convincing his allies that the heavens themselves are sending a warning, not against them, but against Caesar's monstrous rise to power. He argues the violent weather is just mirroring the unnatural state of Rome being ruled by a dictator.
The conspirators know they are right on the finish line. They have a core group of dangerous, committed guys. Now they just need to snap the jaws of that trap shut around Brutus. Cassius is super confident about it, declaring that 3/4 of Brutus is already on their side, and that their next meeting is going to secure him completely. To guarantee that happens, they execute the final, sneaky stage of Cassius's manipulation. The conspirator Cinna is given a vital task. He is sent out into this dark, stormy night to plant those forged letters we talked about earlier. He's told to throw one through Brutus's window, leave one on his work chair, and stick another to the statue of his famous ancestor. It's literally an ancient disinformation campaign. It's perfectly designed to make Brutus believe that the citizens of Rome are out there in the dark, crying out, practically begging him to step up and save the Republic.
And wow, that just leaves us hanging right on the absolute precipice of Act 2. So what's your big takeaway here? This entire act sets up a timeless, deeply human conflict. Will the noble Brutus actually take the bait, abandon his personal love for his friend Caesar, and plunge Rome into total darkness for what he genuinely believes is the greater good? Act 1 built the storm perfectly, and now we just have to wait for the lightning to strike. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Definitely keep this wild tension in mind as you dive deeper into the tragic machinery of Rome.